Hey guys, and welcome to Pheas Air Software. Today I'm going to do a disassembly for repair and maintenance on this double bell 804S or SCAR H Mlok. Hey guys, and welcome back. If you do like this content today, please do consider liking, commenting, and subscribing, because those interactions help me get seen by the YouTube algorithms and help the channel grow. If you want to stop by my socials and say hello, the link down below will take you to all of my socials, including my Discord. If you want to support the channel a little bit more, the join button is down below. We'll take you to channel memberships where you can sign up for 99p a month, totally optional, really appreciated. You get custom videos, bloopers, giveaways, and a little bit of a say in how the channel's run when I'm looking for decisions to be made. So we're going to get straight into it then and have a look. Now, in terms of this, I'm not going to do an awful lot with a lot of the uppers and externals because frankly I hate working on SCARs, particularly SCAR H, as they are not my best good friends. So in terms of this Mlok unit then, do you know what, let's just do it anyway, because I'll regret it, and then people will comment going, no, I wanted to know how to do X, Y, and Z, and I get it. So let's go for it then. So we're going to remove these screws here, underneath and around the other side, to see if we can get this Mlok unit off. So I'm going to try a T10 initially on this. Now these are, generally speaking, Allen key or hex bolts. The reason I'm using Torx is because I tend to find that they grip better and tend to not round out like hex head bolts can do with their normal tools. That's a little bit bigger than a Torx 10. Let's try a 15. So I've had to switch to a Torx 15 for that front one. Again, I'm keeping the screws in the right order just so I know where they've specifically come from. I'm guessing that one will be a 15. It is. Oh, that's well in there. That one. Switch back. That plate will only go in one orientation. You've got a slant at the front that goes with there, and then obviously the smaller screw hole and the bigger screw hole at the back, and that goes with those two. And I will drop it into this side, and I'm hoping, oh, wrong size. Once I've removed these, this front Mlok unit should just slide off. And I can see that it's moving quite a lot. It is coming off. So put that there. And that just slides off there. Now there is no sort of bottom under there like you would normally expect. And in fact, that is just bringing itself on out. So that was partially retained by some of the screws. I'm guessing the bottom ones there, the big one at the bottom, was retaining that system. Now, I thought that allowed that to come out, but it doesn't look like there's any sort of retention system in there. So if you're looking to remove the outer barrel, basically that set of screws then released it out from there and lock that back in place. That is what happens with that. So I'm just going to screw this all back on then to keep that all together. So what I'll do is I'm going to start with this bottom back plate here to keep those in place. So I did say I needed that in place, and that goes in there. No, it's not big enough. Yeah, it is the bit I need. So I'm just getting that into there. So that's gone in. Switch to the 10 and put the other one in. I will come back and tighten these all back down separately later. That's that side in. That'll do. Do you know what? I'll do it anyway. I'm here now. I might as well finish the job. So the two smaller ones go in the rear two holes. Again, go backwards until it clicks, so you know that you're in the threads. Switch that to the 15. Secure that in. There we go. That's one side. Start with a big one on this side. That's one. Switch that back out. Two. Three. So that's the front end done. Now, in terms of the gearbox, let's have a look. There's no element in there. Now, if I remember correctly, you're supposed to push that pin out. Take that off. I just took that off camera to start dropping that pin out, which is really, in fact, it's going to need punching all the way through. Now the pin has come out completely, and well, that came out easy, and there it is. It's released straight away. So I'm just going to drop that. So all I did was took out that front pin, and I'm guessing if I close that up, I'm guessing if I flip that over, the back two screws on each side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to anchor that back in. I'm going to push that back in partially just to help retain that. And basically what I've noticed then is that these two screws and these two screws are retaining this back stock section in. So I'm just going to put that in a second. It's going to come back out, but it's fine. Hopefully T10 will do these as well. And they do. That's another one. Flip that over. Oops, daisy. There we go. All four of those screws are identical. Now that should, I believe, aha, hidden one. Right, that screw, I suspect, is a little bit longer. The top one is a little bit longer. That just releases that assembly. I'll pull this pin out now. There we go. And there comes the gearbox assembly and the stock assembly. Now, the wiring is going into there. That is a little bit crazy, isn't it? Let's pull that out. So I'm just going to pull the stock pin out. Get that out of the way. So the wiring is more or less pinned under there. So it sits like that. So to release it, that is a quick change spring system, but that is, can we, there we go, no. So this assembly here is a mess. Right, so the wiring runs through there, pull that out there. There we go. So I've just pulled it through. Can't see how this disassembly comes apart. So I'll have to look at that later. Not sure what happens with that. So just for now, I'm just going to feed that back in there. If it will go. I'm just going to feed it up to there just so I've got a little bit of freedom of room, and then I can start having a look at the back of the gearbox. So I've got here, it is a quick release spring system on the back. So what I can do is I'm going to get a bigger bit on there. I'm guessing that. Ooh, good guess. So that is a Torx 25. I mean, this is not ideal. Not only am I trying to do it. There we go. So I'm just going to unscrew that. That's going to come out. Now that little washer there, come out. So put those two together. I've then got two little Phillips head screws there, which I'm going to remove. One. Put that out of the way. Two. Okay, so then now I can, so those just help retain the wiring down. I can put that in. It is, there we go. There is our spring and our bearing base spring guide. So as the spring compresses, it tries to twist a little bit. That just helps it twist, helps it keep healthy. We can't take that off yet. So the next thing then is to get into, okay, we'll remove the lift the upper. At this point I can, we'll switch and change. So there's the barrel and hop assembly. Now it's a SCAR H hop. It's an M4 style, so I'll just put the hop fully on. The barrel's a little bit dirty, but not horrific. Now, it was hopping 2.5s absolutely perfectly, but I did have to put the hop most of the way on, and that is the hop fully on. Now, that's not an awful lot of adjustment, so it's just something to think about, but it does look like a traditional M4 hop unit in there. And that's your barrel. So just slide that back down our inner barrel, and that stays centralized like that. In terms of changing the handle, charging handle, there we go, look. So if I pull it to the back, there where this hole is, I can switch sides, and there's like a flat section that goes in like that, and then you just locate it back in. Famous last words. And then twist it sideways, and then the assembly goes back in. So it's as quick and as simple as that. And that system sits against the back with the stock to keep that on its spring. Again, locking it back with the bolt release when it's in there. So I'm going to put that back because to transport it, it needs to be in. So it literally just goes in flat like that. And then you twist, yeah, and then it sits like that. It doesn't have to be twisted, it just literally goes in, and it's just a loose fit like that. And there we go, that's back in. Get that out of the way for now. Put this side down. So back to this then, we're going to remove the base off the pistol grip. I am aware that that retention clip came off. I will deal with that as we're putting it back together. Let's have a look. Is that going to be the right size? Nope. We're going down to an 8, the pistol grip. Yes, we are. So we're on a Torx 8 then to remove the pistol grip. I do like that it's a big motor adjustment screw. I don't like the little grub screws with the plate inside. The big ones, big chunky ones are best. That front one. There we go. So undo the screws, they lift out. The two screws are identical lengths. We've got our motor then. So we've got the red terminal and wire at the front, the black at the back. Let's get a flat head just to lift the terminal. That's one. That's two. There is our generic long shaft motor. Out of the way. We've got two screws, bottom right and top left. That one, that one. So I'm just going to get a Phillips head on that. That's one. There we go. So the red wire and the black wire basically come in their respective holes and basically go. So the red wire comes in the front and stays at the front. The black wire comes in at the back and stays at the back, which we'll discuss when we put the motor back in. So I'll just get that out of the way. The screws have stayed in. Next, we've got, that is not a rear pin, but we have got the trigger pin, and we have got, looks like we've got the mag release as well. So the mag release is a teeny tiny little grub screw, so I'm going to have to go and maybe I've got enough in that. No, that's not, that's too big. What's that, Torx 7 maybe? Nope. So I need a very, very thin. So I'm going to go and get my precision bit. Okay, so by sheer luck, I realised I got another tool at T6. The T6 was just able to get in there. It was pretty damn awkward to get in there, I'm not going to lie. That was a pain to get into. And a lot of the issue was caused around this tiny little opening in here. But I undid the button and it basically sprung up off the mag release, which has sat through the front of the gearbox. And I've released that out. It says. And that's in an awkward position. I'm probably going to have to... Why is that doing that? So I might have to release the gearbox first. So this pin here looks like it goes out that way. If it is indeed a pin, I'm just going to take this off camera and punch this out. Second thoughts, I'm not sure it is a pin. So what I'm going to do is, I do know that I need to remove the selectors. So I've just got underneath with my T6 until that is it going to come out? That's going for some distance. Let's release the other side. So that's T6 little set screw in one side, T6 set screw in the other side. Now just be careful because the little ball bearing could go disappearing underneath. So the two set screws are identical. Okay, so battling with this one a little bit. So the two selectors, this is from the left hand side, this is from the right hand side. They are pretty much identical. The ball bearings seem to be free moving. Basically what I needed to do to get them off, I'll just put them back where they were. Once I'd removed the set screws, I had to just get a flat head underneath just to pry them off a little bit. So they are pretty much by the looks of it identical, but obviously just keep them in the correct orientation. And then what it leaves us with is that we've got a little notch on this side, a little notch on that side, basically just ready to remove. I can't get that out yet because the gearbox isn't quite in the right position to come out. That's not a pin. I don't think that's a pin. That might be a pin, but I'm not 100% sure yet. So we're just figuring it out a little bit at a time. But first thing I'm going to do is remove these. So I'm guessing it's not a T7, but it is a T8. So that just screws onto there. It's just a little block. You're looking for the screw damage. You can see the set screws screwed into that. That's from this left hand side. Flip over again, do the same on the other side. And that just comes off. And that's the other side. Exact same thing again. Two little holes go into the two little sockets on there. And that is now starting to lift up. I should be able to, he says, there's no screw in the bottom there keeping that down. I should be able to, as I'm manipulating this out, up and out. Okay, so basically the issue I'm having here is that this little plate here does not fit through the hole that it loops through on the front of the gearbox. And I don't know whether that's just bad design, bad casting, if that's intentional. The only way I can seem to see is that I've got to punch this pin out of here, by the looks of it. But even then, that's not going to do anything either, is it? It must go through somehow. I'll be back in a moment. Did it. So basically what I had to do was literally just maneuver it with a flat head until it was in position, and then I've had to more or less just tap it through. Now I don't know whether that's poor design. It does look like there is a slight kink in it. Possibly this is a known issue with it or whatever. You know, it's a little bit disappointing that that's been a thing I've had to contend with. But then the gearbox does lift up and out at this point, and I've lost, there it is, look, the little gears. There's another little gear there. Now these are notorious for being absolute pains in the butt, these little gears. So these are what go on the side of the gearbox to help with the selectors and everything. So right this minute, I don't want to deal with them. We'll ignore it. So that just came off the front there. That just sits on the front like that. Now there is sort of like a hole in the bottom that it could be screwed down, but it basically just sits like that, and it keeps up against the rest of the hop unit. So we'll just show you like that. I'll show you again when we're putting it back together. So I'm going to flip this over. What I need to do now is I need to pry these parts again. So I'm just going to, I'm guessing by now you can probably see why I dislike so much working on SCARs, particularly SCAR H's. Okay, so my phone packed in because it run out of storage, so I've just freed up some space, and we'll recover anything I've missed probably on the way back to reassembling. But we're now at a point where I have separated those two off. There was a set screw, grub screw in each of those. I just loosened one off enough to separate them out. So we just need a Phillips head now to take all the screws out so we can have a look inside. I want to sit in a dark room and cry for a little bit because these are awful things to disassemble. So all the screws across the top are identical. There are two different types of screws across the bottom. I'll show you, that screw and that screw are, I want to say cone head, not that type, that type that are angled in, and the other two, those two, I can get this, come here, bloody thing, are that type rounded off on top. So just so you know, so I'm just going to put my finger on that to keep that down, lift this up, set the gears stuck in its bearing. So there is bearings in there, which is pretty good. I'm going to have to be quite careful here because obviously it's wired to the stuck to the stock. So just lift the cylinder assembly just to have a look. So we've got a very long SCAR style nozzle in there, just clear plastic, just to be aware of. So let's check the compression there. Metal tooth piston, double O-ring on it, high performance piston, bell on the end there. Look at that, that's quite nice. So just going to check compression. Excellent compression, as we've seen in a lot of double bells lately. That's really good. So we've got our, let's check it with the nozzle on then as well. So just checking to see, I can push the pressure in, but there is a lot of force there, which means that even with this nozzle on, we're maintaining some excellent air compression, which is really good. Just put that back in there, so that should be hooked onto there, so it moves up and down nicely like that. We've got a standard M4 style trigger unit in there, and the gear set look pretty standard as well. Let's just loop that around. The trigger at the top is just basically an M4 type. So it is a fairly standard. It's fairly, there's a good effort made in there of shimming. They've made an effort, and it sounds pretty smooth when it's shooting as well. The wiring is okay quality. It's probably as good as any other double bell we've had so far. The main issue is just it's a SCAR H and it's a nightmare to disassemble. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hook this little tappet spring hoop onto this peg here, and then I'm going to pull it back. Oops, so easy. And drop that into place. Yeah, that's in place. That's set on its runners. Push that spring down on there to help keep it down. Next thing, push that anti-reversal latch back in place. I'm guessing like that. I'm just making sure that the wiring is the right sort of elements through and where they should be. Now this has been made trickier because I can't separate that, and I'm sure I'll figure it out something silly in a minute. So I'm just going to roll this on from the front and then curse that the black wire has moved. Cursors. Right, and the anti-reversal latch is jumping again. Stay there. Right, we'll roll this on from the front. This is made more difficult. There we go. So just going to roll that about. Wow, okay. Woo, there we go. So wow, so what I'm looking for is that the cylinder should be flush to the gearbox casing, which it is. The gearbox casing should shut flush. The gears and everything have all dropped into place nicely. Wow, that was surprisingly easy. So now I'm going to screw all of these screws back in. I'll be back in a second. So I've put the screws all back in. The 4 top ones were all the same. The rear screw here and the screw here are the sort of like round the top ones. This screw and this screw are the sort of like slanted cone style ones. I should really learn the names of those screws, shouldn't I? It's a bit poor that. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to put this assembly bar back through, and basically Pheas is going to cry because he hates doing this. So those are clipped back together. I'm going to use my T6 just to tighten that set screw back down. It's not actually a T6, I think it's a T5, but basically it's gripping it enough to do what I need it to do. Just going to pull that through a little bit, just check that, yeah, they're the right orientation, that's fine. That's all good. They're at the right position. So next thing I can do, just because I'm here, I might as well just put the spring in. So again, we've got the 2 pegs that are going to go in, and then we're going to push it in and twist it clockwise, and then it should sit more or less flush with the back of the gearbox. Then I'm going to have a little cry because I hate this bit. This is the hard part now, where we've basically got these selector cams, we've got these little gears here, and we have to try and basically drop them all into place so that they all link up together, all at the same time, all in the same direction, and it's an absolute nightmare. So ultimately what I'm looking for is that we've got a line on here, and we've got, let's lift it up, and we've got a line on these little cogs, like a trio of little lines, like a little Mercedes symbol. And basically what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to line them up at this side. I'm trying to line them up with the other side as well, so that I've got that, and I've got a line here. So that's all lined up more or less. Let's move that up. So I can see there that those are lined up. I then need to try and match the line in on this side like that. Then what I have to try and do is I have to try and drop that all back into here whilst keeping these little cogs And just to show you, the little cogs drop down into these two slots here. So I'm going to drop them down into there in the hopes that they don't move in any way, shape or form. And they're already moving. Brilliant. Right, let's take them off a minute. We'll come back to those in a second. Just going to drop that down in there and seat it properly first. So it will be a little bit stiff because those oh no, I don't know if you noticed that then, but this little spring was getting in the way, so I'm just going to extend that out. That little spring there that helps with the cut-off lever was just getting caught. There we go. So now what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and bring that up. I have no idea if that's even in the right place. So what I'm going to try and do then is I'm going to drop one in with it. So I've lined, no I haven't. Right, so I've got the lines set. I'm going to try and keep that. Just catching the spring again. There we go. Right, if I know that one's lined up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this back in now to make sure that it stays lined up. That's the wrong way. Right, I'm going to bring in the T8 to screw that back down. And I'm just holding it still as best as I can to tighten that screw down. I'm then going to flip it over, and now what I'm going to try and do is try and manipulate that little gear down into there whilst keeping it in the right orientation. But what I can do here is I can lift it up, and I've got the little line just showing there. I'm just going to try, and that looks like I have done it. Whew. Right, I'm then going to bring this in and secure this down. There we go. Right, so right now they should both be horizontal, and they are, which is good, which is what we want. What I've realised is I have not separated those. Those two wires should have gone either side of that thing, so now I'm going to have to disconnect those, lift it slightly to split those wires. Okay, so after much stress and annoyance, the wires are in place. I've got the two tabs on each side. They're pretty much lined up as well. I'm happy with those. So next thing I can do is bring back in these selectors. They need a good firm push down. I'm going to bring in my, was it the T6 I needed? Let's just double check. Pretty sure it was on the set screw. That's not the T6, is it? That's T7. There's the 6. It is the 6. So I've put it in. Just going to screw that in there. Screw that down tight. Wiggle that free. Did not want to let go. And then, ooh, see, the ball bearings are sort of loosely in there, so just keep that safe because you want it to be in there. In fact, I've just realised the other ball bearing has dropped out as well from the other side. Okay, so what I've just done then is I've just secured that one down, put it in the single shot position, the ball bearing, and then push the selector down on top of it to secure it in. So I'm just going to, no. Nope. That does not want to play nicely. Let's come back to this side and sort the ball bearing out on this side. Again, I'm just going to have to wedge it up, and I'll be back in a second. So just put the ball bearing on the first position. I'm just going to drop the selector down on top. It needs good firm push to drop into it, and I can hear that it's clicking in. So then you can use my T6 on the set screw to screw that one in, and then we'll do the set screw on the other side. So guess what I forgot to put on? I forgot to put that part on the nozzle. Now, fortunately, what I've been able to do is just take the selectors off. Again, just lift it up just enough to give me a little bit of room just to put this on. I'll show you what I did. I basically just turned it sideways, slid it on, and then clicked it back down again. And my selectors are still largely in the right position to go back together again. I might need to, there we go. So now I can put my selectors back on there. Now it's a good idea to keep them in the safe, the semi-auto position, because what it means is I can drop the ball bearing on first, and then I can drop this down on top. It's pushed down onto it. I can put the grub screw in, but then what it means is I've got it as a point of reference when my tool doesn't get stuck. I've got it as a point of reference. Bring that back down then, where I can do the exact same on the other side. I can drop that in the single section there. I can drop the selector on top of the ball bearing, and I know that they're both pointing, oops, at the same position. And again, wiggle that free. There we go. So now they're both ambidextrous, working again. I mean, absolutely god awful design, but whatever. It's back together now, and that's the main thing. So we can carry on with the rest of the reassembly. Absolute just atrocious, isn't it? So the next one, I'm going to put the mag release back in. So I'm just going to push that back in there. I can see that it's going through there's like a loop on the front of the gearbox there. I'm just trying to basically manipulate it through. It's going gently. I'm just going to have to use some sort of tool. Now, I don't know if this is just mine that's like this, or if there is other things at play here. It's just about there. There we go. Got that through now. And then what I can do is I can drop the spring on there. I can bring the button back in, which has got the grub screw at the bottom, and I'm just going to drop it in there. I need to compress the button in, push the thing through, and bring my Torx back in, put the grub screw back through. There we go, and then wiggle that through, and that's the mag release back working again. Just making sure that I'm not keep twisting these wires over and over and over and over. So that's the next bit done. Slowly but surely getting there. In terms of this front pin, now I did tug a little bit too hard and this retaining clip came off, so I'm just going to put that in there. I'm going to put that retaining clip back on, so that now will be fine to go back in. Next thing I do then is I can bring back in the pistol grip and put the pistol grip back on. We're over the worst of it now, folks. You can breathe a sigh of stress relief. Now, Pheas, as much as I like a SCAR H, I will not be buying one again. So what I did there was I just wiggled the wires into positions so that they're not crushed under the pistol grip. I'm just going to drop my, in fact, I'm going to get the longer Phillips head. I don't know why I'm struggling with it. this little one. I'm going to screw those in so the screws stayed in the right position, just going backwards until I find the threads, and then screwing forwards into it again. There we go. So the screws then were at the bottom right. There's only literally in this pistol grip, there are only two places to put the screws in, and they were in this bottom corner and that top corner. Now the wires need to stay in their respective sides. They're not going anywhere. So what I've done is the red one, I'm going to bring up this side of the screw hole. The black one I'm going to bring up the other side because they're going to fold and over. I'm going to bring the motor in, red to the front, indicated by that little red circle. Checking that it's springy, because we need it to be springy, otherwise it means it's wedged on something. Black terminal on, red terminal on. Manipulate the wires down and out of the way, and then we can bring the end cap in, again making sure it's springy. And then I'm just going to use the Torx head again. I think it was an 8, 10, 8. I'll check momentarily for you. T8 is the Torx head that we needed for these two screws, just to tighten them down. Just in case you're wondering about the selector, I did check that when it's at safe, I've got the physical block, which must mean that it's in the right place to fire so it can stay in safe. For now, coming to the back then, got the wires back down. We need to bring in this little assembly here, which kept the wires down a bit further back. There we go. There we go. And I'm going to screw that back in. The two screws that were in it are identical. That's one. Bring in the other one. Done. Dropping in this spacer. Doesn't seem to be any particular orientation to it, and just make sure it doesn't drop out of place. There we go. I need to upgrade back to, what was it, the T25 to screw that in. That's in. That's nice and secure. I know it's in because it went in easily and it's kept the spring guide straight. Next thing then, we need to feed this wiring back up in there, back through there, back through there. So we'll just, I'll tell you what, pull it through. I'm just going to gently pull it back through again. Keep going. Just going to take it off camera a little bit just so I've got the dexterity to do it. Okay, so that's in position there. I'm going to feed this through as one of the last things I do. So that's ready to go into there. So we've just got those screws left to go back in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the upper back in. That's on a spring load, so we're just going to push that in to there. We're going to manipulate that into there because that needs to sit under there. In fact, I'll tell you what, let's lift that out a little bit. Why is that not a pin in the way? There we go. So I just had to angle that in a little bit better. That needs to sit straight. That goes in there like that. Those wires need to come through. If at any point it feels like there's anything, you know, sort of compacted or compressed, don't start screwing anything in because you're going to break something. So I'm just going to Check that those are all right still. Yeah, they're all right. So that spring guide thing sits into that back plate. The back plate slides into there, and you can see we've got the screw holes there. There's one underneath the front sight. So just to speed things along, I'm going to switch to that. I'm going to drop the first 2 screws in here just to get some security going. It's actually the wrong size bit. It's the 10 that we needed, not the 8. There we go. So that's pulled that in. Next one, again, these are just short little screws in the sides here. Found the thing, flip it over, do the same on the other side. This will help pull everything into line. Flip up the front sight, drop the top one in. Oh. That's the top one in. Now I'm going to feed the wire in down through there into the stock. Drop the cheek riser down, drop the front sight down, bring the way around, put pad in, put the body pin in, push the front pin in at the front there. Now that needs a good tap in because of the clip that's on it, retaining it in place. And that's it. We have done and dusted at last. I can go and sit and cry in a dark room. Hope you've enjoyed that. Hope you've not been as stressed as I have with that. Hope you found it useful. Please do remember to like, comment and subscribe. Please never ask me to do one of these again. And I will see you next time. Bye.